All right, in this lesson, we're going to go ahead and start specifying the HTML for this app. All right, so I'm going to delete the div ID equals app. And what I'm going to do is just systematically kind of paste in section by section. I don't want to have to write out all the HTML from scratch, but I will describe what's happening in a quick, abbreviated manner. So the first section we're going to have, actually the very first top thing that we're going to have in the future is actually the HTML markup for a splash screen, like a loading page. The reason we're going to have a loading page is because we are importing some, kind of heavy assets, like a video file, also the 3JS object, the 3D object, which isn't too bad, but I think it's like I forget how many KB it is, but it might be like 100 kilobytes. It's not too bad. And some images as well. And so we're just going to preload those. But for now, we're going to save the preloading stuff for a little bit while later. Because it's a little bit annoying to have that loading thing show up every time we save, the file. So we're going to start with the header. So I'm going to paste that in. And this is what it looks like. So I'm going to zoom up even closer. And we can see we have a header with a class of layout-ws. And I specified that because it just means white space. This is a utility class that we're going to define in CSS that just gives us some responsive fluid margin on the right and left of the design, essentially. And inside of this header element, we have the logo, Ringston. And then we have another element, which is a tag. And this is for the menu, and it's only just a single element. So if we refer back to our design, we can see we have ring collection, and this is just a circle in SVG format, essentially. And so that's what this markup is. First we have the ring collection type, and then the SVG element right here. So that's all that is for the header section. Oopsie, what happened? Oh, there it goes. And now we're going to have the hero section, and I'm going to paste that in as well real quick. All right, so feel free to pause this, and if you're trying to catch up and start and type this out, which I recommend doing, you can. So really this part's pretty simple. We have a main class called hero. Inside of it, it has two elements, a div element of class left and the layout-ws, and then also a div class of right. Inside of left, we have an h1 element, and this one's important to kind of pay attention to. And I realized I'm realizing right now what I did here was kind of unnecessary. Oh no, it's not unnecessary. The way I did this is we have an h1 element, and inside of it there are two div elements. So the first div element is the primary h1 class relationships, and this text wrapped inside of this span element is what we're going to change periodically every X amount of milliseconds to a different word. So by default, it starts out on relationships, and then we're going to adjust it to change to romance and then also rings. All right, and then this right here, here is wrapped in a mask class, just like this is. So we're using that overflow hidden on the mask class right here. This stays the same. This word never changes. Okay. Oh, and by the way, for relationships in this span, we will be also applying split type to the three words that transition so that we could take each letter and push them up out of view from the mask. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, and then the right here is this div class right is for the video. So we have a div class of right, and then a div class of video overlay. So this would be the blue overlay that changes the aesthetic of the video, the colors essentially. And then we also have a video attribute or a video element with a few different attributes like autoplay, muted, and loop. And the source is hands.np4. And this is from a free resource where you can get free videos basically to use. And I'll show you right here. It's called Pexels. And pexels.com/search/videos ring. So I did a search for ring. And I scrolled down here enough to the point at which I found just a kind of like a portrait. And when I say portrait, I mean like a taller video, because that's kind of how I wanted it to be on desktop, like on the right column. Right here, I believe, actually, I was wrong, because you know what? I ended up using this right here, which is not a portrait video, but that's okay. So I'm fairly certain that this is the one that I used. And so you're going to want to download this right here, and you can try to choose something on the lower end to reduce the file size. It's also pretty long because it's at 13 seconds or so, and then it just repeats. We could cut this down and also compress it a lot so that it doesn't become a large video file. So that's kind of important. For us, it's a fictional project. We don't have to worry too much about it, but you do want to reduce video files as much as possible because they're very heavy in file size. Okay. So make sure you download that file, and you want to place it in the public folder. So for me, I'm going to take a look at my other reference code in my monitor and my second monitor, and I'm going to drag into the public folder hands.mp4. So it goes right here. All right. Actually, you know what? I must have found a portrait version of this, and I'll do my best to remember to link it here in the design course page that you're watching this video in which it's embedded. I think it shows up beneath it or perhaps on top of the video embed a link to the specific asset so that you can then be able to use it. Okay, so that's how we get that video in there. So we're going to go ahead and save that. Next up, we have our, I call it the detail section. In other words, it is the section that is, where are we at? Right here. All right, so we kind of have this 3-column approach right here, and then we also have precision text down here. So let's go ahead, I'm gonna paste in that markup. All right, so feel free to pause at this point again just to match up your HTML. So I'm calling this section a class of details. Inside of the section, we have 2 columns. We have one column called inspection because it's a 68-point inspection or something like that, something I came up with. And inside of there, we have the 3 columns. So we have the type here where it says 68, and then we have the ring, which is a ring background photograph. And again, just to show you that, that is right here, this little photograph in the background. Again, I got that from Unsplash. And then we also have the paragraph. And then we have precision, which is the big, large type underneath. And I'm given the mask class, the utility class, and also a class called marquee because it kind of just moves left and right based on scroll position. All right, so hopefully you're with me so far. You're not too bad. Next is the horizontal slider section. So there's a fair amount of markup here, but it's really not too bad. So this is all the markup. Again, feel free to pause. Let me close this. And so we have a div class called, first it starts off with no overflow. If you remove this, and once we get the CSS in and all that stuff, you will have a big long horizontal scroll bar at the bottom of the browser. You don't want that because we have 3 slides that are 100% width that are in column format next to each other. So it pushes that, it creates a big scroll bar. But if you wrap it in this, this no overflow, and again, you'll see it once we get to the CSS section, what this looks like. We can get rid of that with overflow hidden. All right, so now we have the section class of slider inside of it, which is the parent element, which is to be display flex on desktop, just to show, to get them all in column format rather than row format. And then we have our individual slides, and they're really super simple, and they're just copies of each other essentially. So we have a div class slide, and then we have another div class called inner and layout white space. This is the white space we're using to try to create equal white space and via margin and padding. And then we have just our simple paragraph. And again, the split type will be used on this, and GSAP will be used so that we can animate the individual characters based on scroll position. All right, after that, we have a contact section. So I'm going to paste this in. All right, so there's a fair amount of markup here. We have a div class of contact, and again, I think I did a quick design here. Yeah, this is the markup for this. So we kind of have a line at the bottom and top like a border. We have 2 columns, or really just 1 column, and then we're going to bring this the ring graphic in wireframe format, and we'll have it come back into the viewport and animate. And then we have just 3 rows and 3 elements right here, which will reveal based on scroll. All right, so inner contact, we have the top border, We have the main section right here, which gives our 3 elements that were stacked on top of each other, and then the div class align bottom, and there we go. And then just to scroll a little bit further, like maybe where a footer would be, we would just put an empty section. That is all of the markup that we need. Oh, one more thing we do need, actually, I lied. We need this as well. Canvas, class, WebGL, that's what we want. This is for the 3JS stuff. Okay, so now that we have all the markup ready to rock, if you were still running that server, by the way, it's gonna look like this. It's not gonna look good at all, but that's okay. So once you have that, we're ready to rock, and we're gonna move on to the style.css.